You carry a power inside you, a flame that never truly dies. It may flicker, it may fade into the background, but it is always there, waiting, and when you least expect it, a moment, a realization, a challenge becomes the spark. It feeds that fire again. You might think you already understand the limits of your potential, that you've explored the edges of your strength. But what you see is only the surface. Beneath it lies a vast ocean of untapped power and unrealized ability. There is something within you that doesn't break. Not really. It might grow quiet. It might feel distant, but it never disappears. The part of you that kept moving when everything felt dark is still here. And whether you recognize it or not, you've barely touched what you're truly capable of. Most people spend their entire lives confined to a smaller version of themselves, accepting limits they never chose. But what if those limits were never real? What if the doubt, the fear, the setbacks weren't reflections of who you are, but tests meant to awaken what already lives inside you? You believe you've seen your full capacity. You haven't. Beneath the noise of overthinking and self-doubt, there is a deeper version of you, calm, focused, unshaken. That version is built on the inner strength the Stoics spoke about, not loud, not dramatic, just steady, grounded, real. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Today, we're going deeper into that strength. Not the surface-level motivation, but the real foundation. And if any part of you feels ready to stop doubting and start becoming, then stay with me. This might be the spark that reignites everything. One simple favor. If this speaks to you and you feel this is the space where you want to grow, hit subscribe. It helps more than you think. Let's begin. Why do you doubt yourself? Not because you're incapable, not because you're broken, but because somewhere along the way you forgot how much you've already endured and how much you've quietly overcome. Doubt doesn't grow from weakness. It grows from disconnection, from losing touch with the part of you that has shown up every single day without applause, without permission, without validation. The part that got out of bed when everything felt heavy. The part that kept going when your mind said stop. The part that smiled at others while silently carrying what felt like the weight of the world. Most people never recognize that strength in themselves. Not because it isn't there, but because they were never taught to look for it. You weren't born uncertain. You learned hesitation over time. It slipped in quietly through subtle warnings to tone it down, to play safe, to not expect too much. Maybe it began at school, maybe at home, maybe in watching others punished for standing out. It's not your fault, but now it's your responsibility to unlearn it. Aristotle once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. So what have you been practicing? Dismissing yourself, second-guessing, shrinking. Yet beneath all that noise, another voice has always existed. A quieter one. It doesn't shout. It whispers at the right moments. It surfaces when distractions fade. The voice that says, "This isn't all I am. I was made for more." Have you ever sat in stillness and felt it rise, not as ego, but as truth? If that voice survived the years you tried to silence it with fear and overthinking, then so did the strength that carried you through. You've endured more than you give yourself credit for. Times when quitting would have been easier. Nights when you carried a storm inside and still showed up the next morning as if the sky were clear. That isn't weakness. That's resilience. That's grit. That's evidence. Carl Jung wrote, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." Even in silence, you have been choosing, and those choices are shaping you. The real issue isn't a lack of confidence, it's a lack of remembrance. You've forgotten your own proof, forgotten the strength hidden in ordinary, uncelebrated days when you simply kept going. You adjusted, You healed in fragments. You moved forward when nothing made sense. That kind of strength doesn't vanish. It just gets overlooked. We overlook it because we're conditioned to trust criticism more than capability. Compliments are brushed aside, achievements are minimized, and over time, a quiet narrative forms: I'm not enough, even when reality says otherwise. Socrates believed the unexamined life is not worth living, but the unexamined self is where suffering begins. If you never stop to reflect on everything you've overcome, how can you trust what you're capable of next? There was a time you felt unstoppable, not because life was flawless, but because you were connected to something deeper. Maybe it was childhood, running freely without fear, speaking without apology. Or maybe it was during hardship, when something in you stood firm and steady. That wasn't ego, that was clarity, that was you. That spark never disappeared. It didn't burn out. It was buried under opinions you never asked for, criticism you didn't deserve, failures you mistakenly turned into identities. The noise of life, the pressure, the expectations just made it harder to hear yourself. But understand this clearly: you didn't lose your fire. You simply stopped feeding it. And real fire, the kind that lives in your chest and refuses to quit, doesn't die easily. It doesn't disappear after one setback or even 100. It pulls back, it waits, it smolders quietly until you're ready to remember it was never gone. All it takes is a decision, not loud or dramatic, just a calm, firm choice to believe again, not in some perfect future version of you, but in the core that has always existed. Carl Jung said, "Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." That sense of invincibility you once felt wasn't a fantasy. It was your heart speaking clearly before the world handed you reasons to doubt. Maybe it's time to stop searching outside for validation and start recognizing what's already within. You're not beginning again. You're returning. You're not broken. You're buried beneath stories that were never yours to carry. Let them fall away. Reclaim that inner voice, the one that doesn't need to shout to be certain, the one that whispers, "I'm not finished, I'm remembering." The loudest person in the room is rarely the strongest. Volume isn't power. Often it hides insecurity. Real strength moves quietly. It doesn't demand attention because it's focused on building. True confidence is calm, steady, and unaffected by who's watching. It's not the one creating noise. It's the one creating progress. You've been taught to believe that if no one notices, it doesn't matter, that if it's not posted, it didn't happen. But that isn't growth. That's performance. Confidence isn't about proving yourself. It's about knowing yourself. And when you truly know, you don't need applause. You just keep showing up day after day. When there's no spotlight, no cheering, just you and the work, that's where real strength is formed. Plato said, "The measure of a man is what he does with power." I'd add, especially when no one is watching. The world will notice eventually, but the first person who needs to notice is you. If you're building something and nobody sees it yet, good. Let them miss it. Let them underestimate you. Let your silence puzzle them. Let your discipline unsettle them. One day they'll ask how you did it. By then, the answer will already exist in your results. How often have you told yourself, "I'll try when I'm ready"? Maybe you never said it out loud, but you've thought it. You tell yourself you need more confidence, more skill, more preparation before taking the leap. But readiness isn't something you wait for. It doesn't knock on your door and announce itself. It's built, not by thinking, but by doing. You don't become ready and then act. You act, and through action, you become ready. Every person you admire began without certainty. They started with doubt. They felt fear. They just refused to let fear decide. They moved anyway, and in moving, they transformed. Aristotle taught that we learn by doing, not by waiting, not by hesitating, but by engaging with the very thing that intimidates us. Fear is clever. It disguises itself as logic. It tells you to be practical, to wait for better timing, to collect more information, to seek more approval. But what if that polished reasoning is just fear wearing a suit? What if hesitation isn't protecting you, but freezing you in place? Your future self, the grounded, capable, fulfilled version, isn't waiting for perfection. It's calling you forward now, from the place that feels uncertain. If you feel afraid, that's not weakness, that's life, that's proximity to growth. Discomfort isn't a warning sign, it's a signal. It means you're standing at the edge between who you've been and who you're becoming. You don't wait to feel worthy of change, you act into it. Worthiness isn't gifted, it's forged in uncertainty, in decisions made when nothing feels guaranteed. You don't discover confidence and then show up. You show up unsure, even scared, and by returning again and again, confidence forms. Every time you tell yourself, "I can't," your nervous system listens. It doesn't debate, it doesn't verify, it accepts the instruction and begins wiring around that limit. Your body tightens, your breathing shifts, your expectations shrink. Repeat it enough, and it stops being a thought. It becomes a pattern, a blueprint your actions quietly follow. That's the subtle nature of doubt. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Maybe I'm not built for this. I've never been good at that. It's probably too late. It sounds like your own reasoning. It feels rational. But it's fear slipping past your awareness. What if you treated your thoughts as suggestions, not facts? What if you met them with curiosity instead of panic? Carl Jung wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Many of us are guided by thoughts we never selected, never examined, never questioned. They were inherited from teachers, parents, culture, voices that became internal long before we realized we could challenge them. Next time that inner voice says, "You're not enough," pause, don't accept it immediately. Ask yourself, whose voice is that? Is it an exhausted version of you speaking from burnout? Is it someone else's criticism that stayed longer than it should have? When you identify the source, you loosen its hold. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer of them. You are the thinker, not the thought. That means you hold power, not to control every idea that appears, but to decide which ones stay, which ones you nurture, which ones shape your life. Your mind is a sacred space, and like any space, it gathers clutter. Self-doubt, fear, shame, they accumulate if left unchecked. But you can clear it. You can bring order by being intentional. Replace noise with clarity, assumptions with questions, judgment with understanding. Power begins the moment you stop being an echo and start becoming the editor, the author who chooses the script instead of repeating what was handed down. You scroll, you watch, you see others achieving, building, shining in perfectly curated snapshots. Without realizing it, you begin to shrink, not physically, but internally. You compare their wins to your doubts, their milestones to your mess, their highlight reel to your behind-the-scenes reality. Suddenly, it feels like you're behind in a race you never signed up for. But comparison is a thief. It steals more than joy. It takes focus, gratitude, momentum, and replaces them with anxiety and quiet inadequacy. And most of what you're measuring against isn't even complete. You're comparing your full humanity to someone else's edited moment. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught that we should never anchor our worth to what lies outside our control. especially other people's achievements. He said freedom is gained by disregarding what we cannot control. Yet we surrender our peace each time we use someone else's progress as a ruler for our own. You are not behind. You are on your path, one with its own rhythm, pace, and lessons. You were never meant to mirror someone else's timeline. Aristotle believed each person carries a unique purpose, what he called telos. Trying to imitate someone else's calling is like planting a tree and expecting it to bloom like a flower. It's not failure, it's misalignment. The only meaningful comparison is with who you were yesterday. Are you learning, growing, trying, even slightly? Then you are not losing, you are evolving. Progress measured in awareness and small consistent steps holds more substance than any spotlight moment displayed online. What you need right now isn't more motivation. It's remembrance, not hype, not a louder mantra, just a calm reflection on everything you've already survived. If you truly looked back, you'd see you've endured more than you admit. The days that bent you, but didn't break you. The nights heavy with doubt when you still rose the next morning and kept moving. That is your resume, not titles, not numbers. Your evidence lives in your perseverance. Resilience isn't some rare trait reserved for a chosen few. It's a choice made daily. It's deciding to continue when nothing makes sense, when everything inside you whispers stop, and you quietly answer, not yet. It's shaped in exhaustion, strengthened under pressure, and revealed through failure. Plato said, courage is knowing what not to fear. But maybe true courage is feeling the fear fully and stepping forward anyway. You are stronger than you think, not because someone reassured you, but because you've practiced strength in private. The kind that never gets posted, the kind that earns no applause, the strength built behind closed doors, in moments you doubted you'd survive, but did. That's where confidence begins. Not in speeches or praise, but in standing up one more time after life tries to knock you down. Confidence isn't created in comfort, it's earned in darkness. Your mind is both battlefield and sanctuary. It can multiply chaos or cultivate clarity. It's not just where thoughts pass through, it's where your future takes shape. Often, it's not the events themselves that undo you. It's the story your mind attaches to them. The interpretation, the assumption, the fear layered on top. That's where the spiral starts. Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. But what about the unexamined thought? That sentence you repeat without noticing, I'm not ready, they're better than me, this always happens to me. Left unchecked, those phrases become the script you perform daily, not because they're true, but because they're familiar. You can reclaim the gate. You can stop allowing every thought to enter unchallenged. You can become the gatekeeper of your own mind, the one who decides what stays, what gets questioned, and what must be rewritten. It begins with awareness, creating space between what happens and how you respond, between a thought and your decision to believe it. Start examining your beliefs, not to criticize them, but to understand them. Where did they originate? Who passed them down? Are they grounded in truth or just old conditioning? Carl Jung warned that people will do almost anything to avoid confronting their own inner world. Yet facing your mind is where freedom starts. It isn't glamorous, but it is liberating. Refine your inner language. Speak to yourself like someone you are responsible for protecting. Journal, not to impress yourself, but to see yourself honestly. Stop writing what you wish were true and start writing what is, so you can move toward what could be. Don't just consume information. Train your thinking, practice awareness, practice replacing destructive patterns. A disciplined mind doesn't panic at difficulty. It pauses. It doesn't absorb every opinion. It filters. It doesn't obsess over control. It seeks clarity. A trained mind won't eliminate every challenge, but it will protect you from the ones you create yourself. You've attached your worth to outcomes, the offer, the numbers, the applause. You've looked at results like mirrors, hoping they would reflect validation back to you. When they didn't, you began to shrink, assuming that a disappointing result meant something was wrong with you. But outcomes are incomplete narrators. They're influenced by timing, by chance, by factors outside your control. If you measure yourself by them alone, you'll constantly swing between pride and shame. One success will never satisfy you. One failure will feel final. The Stoics understood this long ago. Marcus Aurelius didn't measure his life by praise or victories. He measured it by alignment with virtue, by whether his actions came from integrity instead of impulse. They believed strength lived in the process, not the result. Epictetus said, "Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." That isn't passivity, it's peace. You are not your wins. You are not your losses. You are who you are when facing both. You are the effort, not the echo, the decision, not the outcome. Detachment is often misunderstood. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care deeply without collapsing when results don't match your hopes. You commit fully. You give your best, but you refuse to let the outcome define your value. That's not indifference. That's mastery. You can love something and still release the result. You can give everything and still remain steady if it doesn't unfold your way. That's strength anchored internally, not shaken externally. Transformation isn't a dramatic leap. That's a myth. Real growth isn't cinematic. It's built from small, honest steps. You don't need to see the entire staircase. You only need the next step, the one directly in front of you, the one that feels uncomfortable but aligned. Courage isn't always grand. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's quietly saying no when approval tempts you to say yes. Sometimes it's writing one truthful sentence when doubt urges you to erase it. Sometimes it's simply getting out of bed and facing the day when everything inside wants to retreat. Plato said the greatest victory is conquering yourself. That victory doesn't arrive in a single moment. It's formed in repeated, quiet decisions to act with integrity, even when fear is louder. You don't construct a new identity overnight. You build it by showing up slightly stronger than you were yesterday. Each time you do, something shifts. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone ruled by doubt, but as someone who moves despite it. Once you start viewing yourself as capable, even in small ways, everything changes. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior reinforces identity. It becomes a loop, one you control. Who are you when no one is watching? When there's no recognition waiting, no applause, just your choices and the silence around them. That's where self-respect is formed. Not under bright lights, but in quiet moments of alignment. It's easy to appear strong when attention follows. Easy to speak boldly when applause is guaranteed. But real transformation happens when you choose what's right, even if no one will ever know. When your actions reflect your values, not because someone might see, but because you see, you know, and that knowing becomes your compass. Socrates taught that the soul is shaped by its thoughts and equally by its habits. What you repeatedly do in moments with nothing to gain is what builds your inner foundation. You don't earn trust in yourself by making bold promises. You earn it through consistency when no one is watching, by honoring the commitments you make in private. That steady loyalty to your own word, that's where unshakable self-respect begins. When you show up without needing an audience, your strength turns inward. You stop performing. You stop trying to prove. You simply become. And once that shift happens, even the loudest criticism fades into background noise. temporary, powerless, irrelevant. Stop shrinking yourself. Stop hiding pieces of who you are just to make others comfortable, and stop apologizing for your ambition, for wanting more, reaching higher, standing fully in your truth. Ambition isn't arrogance, it's clarity. It's the quiet awareness that you're meant to contribute something meaningful. Somewhere along the way, you may have been taught that striving makes you selfish, that confidence makes you threatening. But that narrative was never about you. It was about someone else's comfort. Real humility doesn't ask you to disappear. It asks you to stay grounded. It doesn't mean concealing your gifts. It means offering them with grace. Socrates said, "To find yourself, think for yourself." When you do, you realize humility isn't shrinking back. It's stepping forward without needing to dominate the room. Courage isn't noise, it's presence. It's living aligned with what matters, even when that path isn't popular, even when it's difficult. You don't need to chase attention, but you do need to stop acting like your voice doesn't matter. You weren't designed to fade into the background. You were meant to build, to contribute, to speak, to demonstrate integrity in a loud world. That doesn't require aggression or showmanship. It requires grounding, intention, dignity, calm conviction. You don't need applause to be powerful. You don't need celebration to be significant. Your worth isn't measured by volume. It's measured by how consistently you show up for what truly matters. Fear isn't the enemy. It never was. What limits you isn't fear itself. It's how unquestioned it becomes. It's how tightly you cling to it. Fear only takes control when you hand it the steering wheel without asking where it's going. It grows in avoidance, in silence, in stories left unchallenged. So challenge it, sit with it. Ask yourself clearly, what am I actually afraid of? Is it failure, being misunderstood, starting over and admitting the last path wasn't right? Most fears aren't life-threatening, they're ego-threatening. They're about discomfort, uncertainty, loss of control, and that's where growth lives. Carl Jung said, "Where your fear is, there is your task." Fear isn't a stop sign, it's a spotlight. It highlights areas still ruled by limitation instead of freedom. If something both scares and excites you, pay attention. That tension is the edge of your potential. If everything feels safe and predictable all the time, you're probably not expanding. Growth doesn't require the absence of fear. It requires movement in its presence. Stop waiting to feel fearless. That day rarely comes. Learn instead to walk beside fear, not behind it, not beneath it, shoulder to shoulder. Let it inform you, not imprison you. Discipline isn't punishment. It isn't about stripping joy or being harsh with yourself. It's liberation. It's the quiet strength of structure, the freedom that comes from knowing you can rely on yourself when things become chaotic. When life feels unstable, discipline becomes your rhythm, your anchor. When you train your focus, move your body despite resistance, choose consistency over comfort, you aren't restricting your life, you're expanding it. You're telling your nervous system, I can be trusted. That trust becomes peace, stability, strength. Motivation is temporary. It visits and leaves. Discipline remains. It supports you when inspiration fades. It reminds you that your value isn't determined by fleeting emotion. It's shaped by repeated choices. Aristotle said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence, then, is not an act but a habit. Treat your routines as sacred, not rigid, not flawless, but intentional. Let them ground you, because on days when doubt clouds your thinking, when you forget your direction, your habits will speak for you. They'll say, I know who I am because I show up. That's discipline at its core, a daily expression of self-respect. You've spent too much time waiting to feel ready, waiting for the right mood, the perfect timing. permission from someone else to begin. But readiness isn't something that arrives on its own. It's built by stepping forward even when your confidence shakes. The truth is, you're already becoming. Not in dramatic ways the world applauds, but quietly, daily. In every moment you chose integrity over ease, patience over reaction, effort over excuse. The decisions no one noticed, the ones you doubted mattered, those are shaping you. The confident, steady version of you isn't some distant fantasy waiting at a finish line. That version already exists within you, waiting to be revealed. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You don't need to transform into someone new. You need to stop running from who you are at your most honest. That version of you is closer than you think. One aligned choice away, one courageous moment. One step in the direction you keep postponing. When you stop underestimating that truth, everything shifts. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You stop waiting for permission. You move with intention. You begin acting like the person you've always had the capacity to become. And once that shift happens, you don't go backward. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are evolving every single day in ways no one else may see, but your future self will. Keep going. The quiet strength you're building right now will speak louder than anything you could ever announce. If this resonated deeply, there's another video on your screen that will take you further. Let that be your next step. Thank you for being here and for being part of Stoic Journal. This space isn't about perfection, it's about progress, purpose, and quiet strength.